What's up, guys? TFC here. Welcome back to my series. This is part 4. So in this part we're going to be taking a look at getting some of that texture information better laid out so we can work on our track a bit easier, and also something that we can use to convert to masks to use in-game. I've been taking a look at different years and different versions of the Maggiora track. And I think personally I'm going for a 2014 layout, and the reason for that is just wind this video back a little way, because on the whole the track is very similar all years, but this section right here I think is much better on the 2014 version than any other year. These massive floating jumps, they're going to be really fun to ride. So that's the version that I'm going to be making. Now, the layout has changed quite a bit in that region. So in order to update that, we're going to have to grab some historical imagery from Google Earth, which is only going to take a minute. So we'll head to the location. Right, so we're looking at this section right here. We're gonna roll it back. If we look at 2017, for example, it comes all the way down back here through the trees, which we have enough. We do have enough of the Heightmap to do that, but personally, I much prefer what they've done with this section in 2014. So let's roll it back to 2014. And you'll see that it's much straighter down here. Takeoff was roughly in line with this tree right here, I believe. The landing's about here, and then you've got a nice low jump over this hill, up into this corner, and then a big jump back down into the main area. We're going to do exactly what we did to grab our image originally. We're going to make sure we're top down, make sure terrain's turned off, make sure you hit the N for north button to rotate your view so it's perfectly north, and then we're just going to export that image. Save image, turn off the map options, maximum resolution, save. It's going in the Maggiora folder. I'm just going to call it 2014 section. Alright, so now we got that. We'll head over to GIMP. First of all, we're going to open layout.tga, which is our tile that we're using. This is 2048 by 2048. Then we're going to open our 2014 section. Right, all we need to do is copy that, make a new layer, turn the opacity down a bit, and we'll paste it in. And we're just going to get the scale tool. We've got keep aspect ticked, so we're always going to have the correct aspect ratio, and we're just going to work it down until it fits in place with some of the features that we've got. So as you can see there, we'll be lining this up until it roughly fits in place. Alright, so I think I'm happy enough with that for what we're using it for. So we'll hit the scale button. Right, now you can see straight away when we turn the opacity back up, we'll toggle the layer on and off. difference in the trees. So it looks like they've cut down some trees to make way for this new section here. Now, personally, I like this section right here, so I'm going to keep that. This is the section that we're going to pinch from 2014. So this version of Maggiora isn't going to be specific year, it's just going to be Maggiora. So we're going to enable that, and what I'm going to do is get the eraser. We'll set the brush to nice and soft, make the size quite large, crank the opacity up to start with, but then the closer we get to the bit we want to keep, we will turn that back down. And I'm just going to get rid of stuff for the sections that we aren't interested in. Okay, so now we're getting quite close. I'll turn the opacity back up. You can see then that we've got all the parts of the track that we want to keep. Okay, so this section here is going to be a bit different as well, so let's just undo what I've just done there, and we'll just take a look at the footage and see exactly what happens, because there is a single. We want to make sure that single is at least still there. So coming back in, and there's the single. So we've got exactly the same situation right there. Alright, so that's basically this part here that we want. This part here that we want. Everything else is staying the same. That's what we're keeping. We're going to File, Export As, and in fact, right, we can now save this, and GIMP gives you a real useful overwrite button. So overwrite layout.tga will basically just overwrite what we've done. Now I'm actually going to export this as layout 2 because I just want to make sure that this is definitely what I want before committing to overwriting what I already had. So we're going to export that. If we go back to L3DT now, we're going to import that, import texture map. We're going to import that new layout that we've got. So that's going to be layout2.tga. Open that. Alright, so we can see our new texture in the bottom there. So if we go to Height Field Editor 3D, we'll go View Textured. Go check it out. So coming back in from here, down the hill, flying down the hill, over the here, and then we've got big berm up there and back down into the track here, which is going to be awesome. One thing we will need to sort out as well is the surrounding scenery up here, because that's slightly wrong. But until we really crack on with working on the track, that's not too important. Alright, so like I said, today we're going to be looking at turning what we've got in the layout image into something we can use as both a better guide to build our track on, and also we can convert what we're going to do today and convert that into masks that we can use in the game. So that's pretty much it for L3DT. I'm going to save the project. We're going to go back to, we can close Google Earth now. We're going to go back to GIMP, and we are mostly going to be working in this layout file right here. I'm going to merge that down. It'll be a lot easier to work on just one layer. And I'm going to add a new layer. And on this layer, I'm quite simply going to draw around the outside of the track path with the select tool. Now for this, I'm going to turn feather edges off. I just want anti-aliasing on. And in GIMP, if you want to use the selection tool point to point, you just simply click where you want one point, click where you want the next, and keep drawing a path that way. And while you've got that selection tool active like this, you can zoom in, zoom out, you can use the mouse wheel to move up and down, hold shift and use the mouse wheel to move left and right. So there's plenty of ways of navigating around the image while you're still drawing your selection box. And I'm just going to go around and do this, and I'll speed the video up and I'll catch you in a minute. Alright, so that's the entire outskirt of the track. Now what we need to do is cut out the inside. And to do that, we're going to hold the control button while we first select, and you'll see there that you've got a little subtract symbol right by the selection tool. Now you click that once, it's now going to subtract the entire time. So we'll do a quick, just cut this section out right here. See, it's subtracted that entire section. You don't need to keep your finger on control the whole time, just at the start and while you make your first click. So I'm going to do exactly the same process. I'm going to go around and cut the inside of the track path out. And I'm going to speed that video up again, and I will be back in a second. There we go. So we have the entire track path selected. If you've got a better way of doing that, do it your way. That's just the way I do things. And I am going to fill that. First of all, I'm going to pick a colour that's pretty much close to what it is anyway. We're going to select the first layer, pick a colour from the track, go to the second layer. I'm just going to fill that in right there. So if we now unselect it, turn off our bottom layer, you can see you have a perfectly mapped out track mask. So one thing I love about doing this, which you don't realise when you make a fantasy track, is just how much the track width changes on a replica or on a real world track. So you have really wide sections right there, you've got narrow sections right there, some very narrow sections. And people forget that when they make fantasies, or some people do, and you end up with a track which is like 20 feet wide the entire way around. Alright, so that's the track path. The next thing we're going to do is the grass. Now, the grass can be a bit tricky. The way we're going to do it here is I'm going to use a brush. So we're going to make a new layer. I'm going to select, we'll just go with white for no, in fact. Yeah, we're just going to go with white for now because that will be very easy to see. We're going to make a very hard brush. We're going to turn the size down until we've got it quite controllable, about there. And we're going to draw the grass up to the edge of the track. We're actually going to go over a little bit, but that doesn't matter. We can cut that out later. So let's just get on with that, marking out where the grass is. Remembering we've got some areas where the dirt joins the track, like right there. And again, this is only a real, for now, quite a rough exercise. Okay, so I'm going to carry on doing this, and then I will speed the video up, and again I will catch you when I've finished. Okay, so I think that's just about going to cover the grass, and this is changeable. This is just what we're going to use initially. So what we want to do is go to our track mask layer, which is this little layer here. We're going to get the magic wand tool. We're going to select the outer and the inner sections. We're going to go selection, invert. Then we're going to go to our grass layer and Control X for cut. It's going to make sure there is no grass on the track areas. So now the grass we're going to color quickly. So I'm going to go colors, colorize. I'm going to turn the lightness down, which will enable the pixels to be colorized. Then we're going to choose fairly mild and inoffensive grass color that we'll be able to see nicely when we're doing the track. So something like that should probably do us quite well. So the reason we've done it like this is because the grass is going to be a mask, so we're going to need this information for the grass mask. Yeah. The track is actually not going to be on a mask, but the outer areas of the track are. So what we're going to do is make a new layer under this. This layer is going to be kind of an off track. So for that, I'm going to start by selecting the track color, and we'll go back to that layer, and I'm just going to make it lighter. Do something like that. Okay, we'll use that for the off track. So these are the three kind of things that we're going to use to do our track with. This is going to make it a lot easier to see, number one, 100% exactly where the track path is going. Number two, 100% exactly where the grass is, because that's going to be quite important as well. We'll encounter why that's going to be important when we're doing more detail on the track. And number three, now we have an image which we can easily pick apart in order to generate our masks later. Now when we do generate our masks, we'll be looking at areas of grass like this, which when we actually look at these in real life, they're very patchy and blended into the surrounding areas quite nicely. So what we'll do to achieve that kind of effect later is we'll use the eraser, we'll select some brushes, maybe something like this, turn the size down, we'll keep the opacity high, and we'll chip away at it till we've got the kind of effect that we're looking for. But we're not going to bother doing anything like that for now, because our main focus right now is the actual track itself. So for this, I'm going to save this image first of all as I'm going to go to our Imagery folder, and I'm going to save this as layout.xcf. And what that means is when I come to load that later, I'll have access to all these layers. I'll be able to turn them off one by one. I won't have to worry about it being a flat image to work from. I'm then going to go to File, Export As. I'm going to go again in our Imagery folder, and I'm going to change this to Layout Masks. We're going to export that. So I'm keeping our other layout files because, for a start, they're useful if we want to double check anything on them. We can load them in at any time in L3DT. So like this one here. I'm also keeping them because when we come to do our object placement, it's going to be very helpful having things like this as part of the texture, this building right here. Any grandstands, trees, all that kind of stuff. So it's very important that we keep hold of those original layout images. Let's import our new texture map and we'll have a look at it. So import texture map, overwrite existing texture, yes. And we're going to pick our layout masks.tga, open that. And here we go. So if we go to Tools, Height Field Editor 3D, chuck View Textured on. And for this, because it's such a basic way of looking at it, I'm also going to go to Options, Lighting, and re-enable that runtime lighting over texture. Now that will make it incredibly easy to spot things that we'd missed before, like this. This is all just from the construction process. Turn the turbo button on if you want to fly around a bit quicker. Stuff like this, which I encountered when I test rode the track. You know, we're going to spot all of these kind of problems that we can sort out when we go through the actual process of track making, where we look at every section individually, and we can actually use this image right here in the game when we check our track out in game, and we can apply a shader to that as well. So let's just do that really quickly. So if we go to GIMP, we're going to file, export as. I'm going to keep it on TGA. We're going to go to our maps folder. I'm going to leave it as layoutmasks.tga. We'll export that. Alright, now let's take a look at the SHD files. Now what the SHD files do, the shader files, is they define exactly what shaders or what attributes a texture is going to use when it's compiled. So we're going to go into our maps folder. We're going to pinch one of the shader files that was from the example track. So this mud SHD will do, for example. So we're going to copy and paste that. We're going to rename it to exactly the same name as the texture we want to affect. So in this case, layout_masks. It sits right there next to our layoutmasks.tga, except it has the SHD extension. So you can right click that and edit with Notepad++, and you'll see what it contains is a bump reference and a specular attribute. So the bump reference right here, this is a reference to a normal map. So in this case, it's referencing mud_n.tga. Now we're going to want that in the same folder, otherwise it won't be able to find it. So mud_n.tga, which is right there. Now the way normal maps work in MX Bikes, we just open that up in GIMP, is the specular map goes into the alpha channel. So if I was to add a layer mask, so right click the layer and add layer masks and select layers alpha channel, okay, and then right click and show layer mask. This is the specular map. And we right click and we delete the layer mask and remove the alpha channel, you'll be able to see the normal map itself. So that's what's going on right here. We don't want to touch that for now, but we are going to use it. So the way it works is it's going to repeat that, mud n, it's going to repeat that 50 times across our texture. So being as our texture is 2048, it's going to repeat it 50 times within that space. So you can set these up yourself. So what we're going to do is we are going to first of all go into our HMF file. We've got layout at the moment, so we want that to say layout masks.tga. We still want a repetition of 1 because it's one big tile. We don't need to touch anything in the THT. So let's compile that and see what we have. So same as before, trh.bat, centerline.bat, map.bat. And we'll go to map view, open it from the folder, and as you can see we now have a normal map repeated onto our texture. Now that's going to make it a lot easier to see in game. So sections like this, for example, which are slightly shaded, it will give that some definition, so we're not just looking at a blank unshaded patch of ground. So this will make it a lot easier to test the track when we've built some jumps, when we've done some definition, when we've done some of the track. Alright, so that'll wrap it up for this video. In the next video, we're going to convert that image into some masks, and we're going to load in some tiled textures, and we're going to get it looking good. Alright, so thanks for watching, guys. If you want to keep up to date with this series or any of my other stuff, please subscribe to the channel, and if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. Catch you later.